What was your worst first date? Mine involved a very entitled woman and public shouting. I'll admit it straight up. I was really nervous that night. I hadn't been on a date in 4 years. I'd been single for about a year after being cheated on. I'm a 31-year-old guy and a total noob at dating. My former fiancé had come on to me, and we'd both fallen hard and fast for one another, so there hadn't been a lot of dating before we were just a thing. It was a good relationship until it crumbled under the weight of her, quote, mistake, i.e., sleeping with another man. Before her, in most of my 20s, my love life could best be described as just hookups. Actual dating, not so much. Tonight, though, I was hopeful as well as nervous. I was meeting Brooke, who I'd been messaging for a couple of weeks. Nothing too intense, just light-hearted banter. She was 30, a year younger than me, brunette, and seemed to enjoy or at least not mind my bad jokes. She seemed confident and friendly, she was pretty, and I was drawn in. I pulled into the parking lot of the little Italian restaurant I'd picked. Not too fancy, but a place where you could comfortably linger over pasta and not feel rushed. Inside, I spotted her right away. She was at the bar, scrolling on her phone, dressed in a blue blouse that made her eyes stand out even from a distance. When she saw me, she smiled and slipped her phone into her purse. "Hi, Kyle," she said, sounding perfectly calm in contrast to my own feelings. "Hey, Brooke, glad you made it." We were led to a table by the window and seated with a realistic-looking but surely LED candle flickering between us. The conversation came easy, starting with awkward jokes about how online dating felt like job interviews with cocktails, which maybe was lame, but it seemed to break the ice. We talked about our jobs, the town we lived in, sports a little bit, and it was going well. She laughed at my attempts to be funny, and I laughed at hers. For the first time in a long time, I let myself think, maybe this could be something. Dinner came. She had ordered chicken parmesan. I'd gotten lasagna. We talked about music, movies, and even childhood stories. She told me about growing up in a big family. I told her about the time I tried to skateboard in middle school and ended up breaking not only my wrist, but later my elbow. She left to go to the ladies' room, and when she got back, she gave me the biggest smile. She sat down, leaned in, as if sharing a secret, and said, "You know, I didn't think I'd have this much fun on a first date." "Me either," I admitted, and it felt good to say. The night was going smoothly, and I was really enjoying myself. I excused myself, taking my own turn going to the bathroom, thinking about whether I should suggest dessert or maybe a drink somewhere else. If only I'd known how much the tone of the evening was about to change. When I came back, something was off. The server was standing at our table, carefully placing 3 white to-go boxes on the table at Brooke's side. My eyebrows went up instantly. Brooke was smiling politely at the server, nodding as if nothing unusual was happening. She slid the boxes a little closer, as though this was the most natural thing in the world. I slid back into my seat, confused. Did something happen?" The server gave me a professional smile. "She ordered 3 entrees to go. Just wanted to make sure they were packed up properly." "Oh," I said slowly. "Right." I looked at Brooke. She didn't look embarrassed. If anything, she looked pleased with herself. While I tried to process, she casually began boxing up the half-eaten chicken parmesan she hadn't finished. Then she glanced at my plate, where I'd only eaten about half the lasagna. "Are you going to eat that?" she asked, leaning slightly across the table, her hand outstretched to take my plate. I put my hand on the edge of the plate and pulled it closer to me. "Yeah," I answered evenly. I was actually planning to eat it later. Her eyebrows ticked up, like I just committed some social faux pas. I cleared my throat. So what's with the extra 3 meals?" She blinked at me, as though surprised I'd ask. "Oh, well, those are for my kids." I sat back, staring at her. "For your kids?" "Yeah," she shrugged, matter-of-factly. I didn't think it'd be a big deal. They love Italian food. I took a slow sip of water, trying to buy myself time. Surely she was planning to split the check then, right? I felt a prickling sense of unease. The server came back as if on cue, asking, "Will this be one check or two?" I looked at Brooke. She looked at me expectantly, like this was all just understood. "Two," I told the server firmly. The air between us shifted instantly. Brooke's smile dropped. "Excuse me?" "I'll cover our meals," I explained to her and to the server. "But I'm not paying for the to-go boxes. I came here to take you out, not feed your family." The server vanished instantly like she couldn't wait to get out of there, and headed back to the register. Brooke's jaw tightened, and when she spoke, her voice was louder, much louder. "You're serious right now?" she practically shouted, head turned at nearby tables. I kept my tone calm. "Yeah, I'm serious. I wanted to get to know you, Brooke. I didn't agree to buy dinner for 3 people I've never even met." Her face flushed red. "Wow, just wow. Do you know how shallow that makes you sound? I'm a mom. This is part of who I am. If you can't handle that—" "Hold on," I said, raising a hand. "This isn't about you having kids. This is about you assuming I'd pay for 3 extra meals without even mentioning it to me." "You think it's easy raising kids? You think I don't deserve a little help once in a while?" Her voice cracked with anger, and she didn't lower it. People were definitely staring now, from all across the restaurant. "Everyone deserves help," I said evenly. "But not like this. Not sprung on someone during a first date. That's not fair to me." She shook her head, muttering under her breath, then glared at me. "You're unbelievable. Most men would step up. Most men would want to take care of me and my kids." I gave a small, humorless laugh. "Brooke, we just met. This is our first date. You made an assumption, and it was a wrong one. You're already expecting me to step up? I haven't even met your kids. That's not how this works." The server came back, sliding the separate checks onto the table as quickly as possible and retreating. I pulled out my card, slid it in, pushed the little black book away from me. Brooke was still fuming. "So what? You're just going to let me pay for these meals? Really?" "Those meals are for your kids," I pointed out quietly. "That was not the meal that I purchased for you. Those meals are not on me." For a moment she was silent, and slowly, in that moment, the murmur of nearby voices started to come back to normal around us. Finally, she snapped her head up at me. She asked me, her voice now lower but sounding threatening, "Are you going to call me after this? Or are you going to ghost me because you're too shallow to date a mother?" I looked her straight in the eyes. "It's been an experience, but no, I don't think we should go out on a second date." She slapped her palm against the table, and her voice shot up in volume once again. "Unbelievable! You're pathetic. You can't handle a real woman with real responsibilities." She hadn't put any form of payment down on her check, but the server returned with my card and receipt. I ignored her eyes boring into the top of my skull as I swiftly calculated the tip, signed, and put the card back in my wallet. I stood, smoothing my shirt, explaining, "I don't want to date you because on the very first date, you felt entitled to take advantage of me. That's the issue, not your kids." Brooke's voice followed me as I picked up my jacket, turned, and started for the door. "You're shallow. You're selfish. You'll never find a good woman who doesn't have kids at your age." I didn't turn back. I had never raised my voice. I hadn't let her bait me into a fight. I walked past staring couples, past the server who gave me a sympathetic look, past the bar where I'd first spotted her, waiting with a smile, and I kept my eyes on the door. Outside, I unlocked my car, slid into the driver's seat, and just sat there for a moment. The sound of muffled shouting still carried faintly through the still night air, and in my rearview mirror I could see Brooke, standing now in the window gesturing, presumably at the waitstaff. It wasn't the night I'd expected, not by a long shot. I knew Brooke had kids before we met tonight. She had talked about them, but never asked if I'd be okay buying them dinner. The assumption and the entitlement shocked me. I blocked Brooke's number before leaving the parking lot. She thought being a mom made her responsible, without understanding that she had, in fact, tried to make me responsible for her kids. I'm not sure when I'll be going on a date again. The stares of the other customers and the curveball that was thrown halfway through the date just make me leery of trying this again anytime soon. If you've had a terrible first date, how did you get over it and get back to dating? Thanks for joining me for this story. If you enjoyed this reading, please hit like and subscribe so you don't miss future uploads. Leave us a comment and let us know what kind of story you'd like to hear next. This is Tales by Rachel, where we breathe life into every story.